Hey, welcome back to Great Sports Debates, and we have a basketball special for you. If you frequent the channel, you know we think Wilt Chamberlain is overlooked. And in this video, not only will we highlight all of Wilt's incredible records, but also in some cases, recognize the players who would now hold those records. We will start with some of the most obvious and impressive, starting with scoring records first, and then move on from there. The original intention was to hit each record in detail, but when you have as many records as Wilt, we'll hit the highlights and we'll breeze through some of them. To me, Wilt's most impressive record is 4,029 points in a single season. This was in his historic 61-62 season. The season was only 80 games at this point, yet the next closest in points would of course be Wilt again with 3,586 points the following year. Now we would need to go almost 1,000 points lower to hit the first non-Wilt points mark. The new king of points in a season would be Michael Jordan with 3,041 points in his statistically most brilliant season. That will be a season that takes several of these records. Keeping on the same topic, Wilt's 50.4 points per game is erased as well in this scenario, as well as his next three best seasons, now making Mike's 87 campaign we just talked about go from 5th all time to 1st at 37.1 points per game. James Harden also moves up from 7th all time to 2nd at 36.1 points per game. Wilt's 100 points in a game is probably the best known record, and now the record drops by almost 20 points to Kobe Bryant, who we all remember scored 81 points in a game. And Kobe will now also own several records, including points and a half, which Wilt had at 59 and is now Kobe's at 55. But probably most impressive for Kobe, he will now have the record for 80-point games. He'll be tied for first place at 1 in 70-point games with 6 other players, now that Wilt's 6 or 7, however many 70-point games he had are erased. And also will have the lead in 60-point games at 6. Although Dame Lillard is getting close. Last year he got that number up to 5. Check out the video linked above right here to see every player that has scored 60 or more, including Wilt, who did it 32 times. Chamberlain's 45 50-point games in a season is more than anyone else has in a career. Let me say that again. The number of 50-point games Wilt had in 1 year is more than anybody else has had in their entire career. Wilt had 118 50-point games total in his career, and now the new record is 31 for Michael Jordan. When you eliminate all Wilt seasons, the most 50-point games in a season drops all the way down to 10. And that's Kobe Bryant in his 07 season that dominated sports news with all of his historic streaks in big games that year. And really, when you look at those streaks, all of them had little asterisks about them since the merger in the last X number of years. Because while these things that Kobe was doing that year were amazing, they were things that Wilt had did most of his seasons. Wilt also has the record, of course, for 40-point games in a season at 63, as well as in a career with 271. The new records in those categories are 37 40-point games in a season by Mike And again, this is a spot where Harding goes from 7th to 2nd with 28, as well as the underrated Rick Barry, who ties James Harden at 28 40-point games in a season. Jordan also claims the 40-point games record for a career with 173. Wilt has the record for consecutive scoring titles at 7. This is a record he shares with Mike, so Mike will have that record alone. And as we all know, Mike has 10 scoring titles total, which is a record. Wilt also has the record for 35-point games at 381, which, I don't know, it's not something I would consider a major record. But again, this would be another record that Jordan would take over at 333. Sticking with scoring, Wilt has the record, of course, for consecutive 60-point games at 4. That streak ended with, he had a bad game. He scored 58. He also has multiple other streaks of 2 and 3 60-point games. The record is now 1 if we take away all the Wilts. And it's shared by all the people that have scored 60 points because nobody else has done it back-to-back. Wilt has the record, of course, for consecutive 50-point games as well at 7, which, if you think about it today, it would be all over the TV, not just sports, but in news in general, if someone scored 7 40-point games in a row. I mean, remember how crazy people went when Kobe got 50 points 4 games in a row, which is the new record now. Wilt scored 40 points 14 games in a row multiple times, as well as some other double-digit streaks. However, the new record, when we get rid of all the times Wilt did it, is 9, shared between Kobe and Jordan. Wilt, non-surprisingly, owns the record for consecutive 30-point games also at 65, which, just think about that. It's no bad games, right? And this is the one that surprised me because, kind of like most of the rest of them, I just assumed that it would be a record by Jordan, maybe Kobe. But this one's actually James Harden, who had 32 consecutive 30-point games. Wilt, of course, also has the record for consecutive 20-point games at 126, which initially you think that number is going to be more than that, but when you think about it, again, we're going back to just no bad games, no getting hurt, no having an off night. Wilt also has the record, obviously, for 25-point games in a row at 80. I believe Kevin Durant is second in that one. I know he passed up Jordan for second when he hit 41 a few years back. So, I mean, as you can see, he's not just the best at scoring or doesn't just have all these marks. He has most of them by a ginormous margin. And that's kind of the idea of this video, is just to show people that Wilt has all kinds of records. Other scoring records include most consecutive games leading all players in scoring at 40. Next closest was Bob McAdoo. If you're not familiar with him, check out my Real MVPs video. He was that dude in the 70s. I mean, he wasn't Kareem, but he was that dude. Most consecutive games leading all teammates in scoring at 116. Most points per game by a rookie at 37.6, which, we've mentioned on Wilt's GOAT video that nobody's ever matched that mark besides Wilt in any other years, not just rookie years. He's got the most points in a rookie year, of course, by a lot. Most points in a game by a rookie at 58. That's actually followed pretty closely by Rick Barry at 57. Most consecutive 40-point games by a rookie at 5. And I'm sure most listeners, or at least big sports fans, remember that is a record that's shared with Allen Iverson. People were very excited with the kind of rookie year he had. Most points in a player's first game at 43. I did some research because I was kind of curious who would be second, or who would be the record holder on this. The highest I found was a guy, Frank Selvey, at 35, who I've never heard of. So go ahead and spot check that one. Make sure we're good there. Fewest games to reach pretty much every milestone. 15,000 points at 358. Fewest games to 20,000 at 499. 25,000, 691. And of course, 30,000 points in 941 games. He did all of them in the least games and least shots. So no matter how you cut it, this is the dude he's a bucket. Most of those categories are now Michael Jordan without Wilt. Other records related to scoring before moving to rebounds, which, yeah, I know the scoring records alone make you say, man, why don't more people have this guy on top of the list? But when we compare him to some of these other guys, just looking at how he dominates in scoring, we forget that might not even be his strongest thing. And he would have records in a lot of different stuff. So let's hit some of these, wrap up some of these scoring related ones. We got most consecutive seasons leading the league in field goals made at 7, tied with MJ. Field goals made in a season at 1,597, no one's close. Field goals attempted, 3,159, no one's close. Most field goals made in a game, 36, no one's close. Most field goals attempted in a game, field goals made and attempted in a half, field goals attempted in a quarter. We got most free throws made in a game at 28, tied with the teacher, who we hit up in the Real MVPs debate. People sleep on how great of a scorer Adrian Dantley is. If you're just looking at offense, I mean, this dude's not in the top 75 of the NBA. Get it, dude didn't really win a whole lot, but you can't deny how much he scored and how efficiently he did so. But moving on, we'll hit seasons leading in free throw attempts at 9. So, hey, even though the guy wasn't a great free throw shooter, he was drawing fouls on people. He was getting some extra shots up. Most consecutive years leading in free throw attempts at 6. 3 free throw attempts in a season. Kind of all those free throw type records. Most points in a playoff game as a rookie at 53. It was the total record, but we know that's been already surpassed. Most field goals in a 7-game series, 113. Most field goal attempts, 48, tied with Rick Barry, as well as made, 24 as a rookie. Nonetheless, it's also tied all time with MJ and Hondo in a playoff game. Most field goal attempts in a 5-game series, 159. Most free throw attempts in a playoff game at 16. I don't know, you guys keep telling me the guy sucked in the playoffs, but I'm seeing a lot of records. And he's as dominant as Wilt was scoring. Let's move on to rebounding, because he's clearly the greatest rebounder of all time. You could argue the greatest shot blocker, one of the most efficient scorers, and possibly the second best center when it comes to passing. So how's this guy, 2, 3, not even in some people's top 10? I don't know. Some people will make excuses about the things he does bad and use a couple of excuses to throw away all these things. And, it's not like he wasn't an elite defender as well. Wilt leads all players in career rebounds very comfortably at 23,924. The new record holder is Bill Russell at 21,620, who's the only other player over 20,000 rebounds. Now, I know people are going to talk about pace and scoring, and those things are true, and that's why they have, rebound percentage and all these other calculations to look at it. But I just want to remind people, if you're going to take away things based on pace, remember the things to add to, as how that decreases how much you can play, it decreases your efficiency, all those kind of things. So just keep in mind. And then again, there's all the other players that were playing in the league at that same pace, and his numbers dwarf those. So off my soapbox, moving on. Wilt also has, not surprisingly, the highest career rebounding average at 22.9. Of course, Bill Russell takes this record also at 22.5. Wilt has the 7 highest rebounding seasons ever, with his best one being at 21.49 in 79 games. Bill Russell now has the record at 1,930. The highest non-Wilt or Bill rebounding season is by Jerry Lucas, currently at 19th place all time. So, again, don't tell me about pace and the time and all that stuff. These two guys were obviously dominant rebounders. Wilt has the highest rebounds per game in the season. Big surprise. At 27.2. Think about that number. 27.2 per game average. And of course, Russell now has the record at 24.7. No surprise, most rebounds in a game is Wilt at 55, as we all know, against Bill Russell. And the new record, not surprising, Bill Russell at 51. Wilt has the record for most rebounding titles with 11. The new record is 7 by Dennis Rodman. Wilt has the record for rookie rebounds per game at 27. And no one's close. Keep in mind, nobody else has even gotten 25 rebounds a game in any of their seasons. He also has the record for rookie rebounds at 1,941. A total that nobody else has come close to in any of their seasons, despite him only playing 72 games that year and being a rookie. Wilt has the most rebounds as a rookie at 45 in a game, as well as a bunch of other 40-plus games. Wilt has the most rebounds in a postseason at 444. Never mind there being less rounds and less games, it doesn't matter. Most rebounds in a playoff game at 41. Followed by Bill Russell, of course, at 40. Most rebounds in a playoff half at 26, which also happens to be an NBA Finals record. Highest rebound average in a playoff series at 32 rebounds per game against Boston and the great Bill Russell in 1967. The same series has the record for a 5-game playoff series rebound total at 160. Of course, he has the record for a 6-game series at 171, which is also a finals record. He has the highest NBA Finals rebounding average at 24.6 for a career. He also has several other irrelevant rebounding records, such as 7-game series, a bunch of other playoff rebounding records, and all-star rebounding records. Wilt has the most double-doubles at 968. He had the highest PER at 31.82, which we know was recently broken, and now Nikola Jokic has it at 32 point something. But keep in mind, and I've said this before, if you add in Wilt's blocks and steals, he owns all the top spots for PER because he's already got a bunch of 30 PER seasons. Wilt has the record with 13 seasons over 1,000 rebounds. Bill Russell would be the new record holder, who also did that 10 consecutive years. Russell would also be the new record holder for career playoff average at 24.5. Wilt, of course, also has the record for consecutive double-doubles. Consecutive. Think about this now. 277. 277 games in a row he had a double-double. Now, I know some people might be looking at it as like, okay, like that could be, 10 points and 10 rebounds. Sure, but when we consider the second longest streak is 220 and the third longest streak is 133, and they're all owned by Wilt, it's kind of a big deal. I mean, those streaks are all well over a season long. Jokic recently tied Wilt's record this past postseason with 4 consecutive triple-doubles. Who knows? Wilt might have had more if the blocks were included, especially considering on the games we have stats for, which most of them are towards later in his career, he averaged 8.8 blocks. Wilt has so many more incredible records, even without his blocks counted. I just wanted to move into a few highlights. He's the only player to lead the league in points and rebounds in the same season, but he did it 6 times. He's one of 3 players, this is your homework, to lead the league in points and field goal percentage, and he did it 4 times. I'll give you one of the other 3. Shaq did it once. Guess the other one in the comments. I'll give you a hint. It's not Kareem. Wilt was the only player to lead the league in rebounds and assists in the same season. He's also the only one to do that in the same playoff series. He's the only player to lead the league in points, rebounds, and assists. Just ever. He's the only player to lead the postseason in points, rebounds, assists, and field goal percentage. He's one of 2 players to have a 20-20 game. I'm sure his was more efficient than Russ's. He's the only player to go 40-40 in a game, and he did it 8 times. He's still the only center to lead the league in assists, even though Joker has surpassed his assists per game marks and looks to be kind of coming for any kind of passing big man records. He's remarkable as well, but again, as great as Jokic is, and I think I like him more than most, if you put his numbers, especially when you consider Wilt's defense, and you compare them, it's not comparable. There's also a million different point, rebound, and assist combinations that no one else has ever done, so I'm not even going to get into those. Just with all these other numbers I've given you, you can already imagine that I can make an infinite list of this amount of points, this amount of rebounds, this amount of assists that no one's done. Plus, an even longer list of things he's second or third in. He would undoubtedly have every type of blocks record, quadruple doubles, and, you've seen on other videos, the quintuple double. Finally, we'll just skip to his durability records because, these are just hard to fathom, and I know these are the most impressive records to some people. His 8 seasons leading the league in minutes is by far the most, except for AI, who is next with 7. I think the next closest after AI is like 4. He also has the most consecutive seasons leading the league in minutes at 5. I think AI would be the new record holder at 3. Wilt also has the highest minute per game average for a career at 45.8. Think about it. This guy played past his prime several years after a major surgery. Most people don't come back. and his career average is 45.8, which is really a number higher than most players, especially today, have ever had in a season. If you wipe out all Wilt's years, Russell would be next at 42.3 minutes for a career. Wilt has the record for minutes in a season, in that historic 62 season, and this is the one that people really get stunned by, with 3,882 minutes. And that's out of a possible 3,890 minutes. And he also holds the entire top 5 when it comes to minutes in a season. In minutes per game, he owns the top 7 seasons, with 48.53 being on top. And as you all know, it's been referenced a million times. Regular season games, 48 minutes. So he's literally averaging more than that based on the overtimes, and only missed 8 possible minutes for the entire year, which would be an average of 6 seconds of rest per game. But as we know, all that came in one game. Wilt has the most consecutive complete games at 47. No one else is close. He has the highest minutes per game in a postseason career, playoff series, or really any kind of way we could break that down. When it comes to the minutes, he has the records. We're not going to hit each one because it'd be very repetitive. You get the point. If there's a situation, he's played the most time. Wilt would also be tied for most MVPs by my count. Check the link in that video at 10. If you stayed around this long and saw all this stuff about all of Wilt's amazing, ridiculous records, I want to thank you. And I apologize for blowing through some of the records, but as you can see, it gets quite repetitive with all of the scoring, rebounding, and longevity records. I also want to take a moment to thank Fubu Sports and Johnny Arnett for inspiration, as well as Basketball Reference and Fadeaway for additional information and resources. As always, if I miss something, you have an argument, or even if you just like the video, it's okay to say something nice. I always enjoy the comments. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. That way I can keep working and keep focused on the things you guys want most. Expect coming soon another Jordan video. I got more Tier 2 players on the way, as well as a 2024 NBA preview that's going to be further down the line, of course, as well as NFL and UFC content in the future. Thanks for watching.